Hello and welcome to another episode of The Brothers Discuss. I am Alex.
And I'm Chris.
Chris, we've got a lot to talk about today.
Mhm.
So I think we should briefly talk about The Penguin. What the season just ended? What are your thoughts?
I thought the Penguin was amazing. This and like I was, pretty interested in like how we're handling like the Matt Reeves universe outside of the Batman films. And it's like I think this show definitely just enhances like what we already have, what we know about like the
Mhm.
Penguin and overall just the world of this Gotham. And I think it's great. I like, kind of paying attention to scaling it back and paying attention to these more like street level characters and villains and all these like, and it's just so many characters in the show that are absolutely amazing. And yeah, I really love this show a lot.
Yeah, same. So I think when the show first started, I was really liking a lot of what they were doing in terms of tone, in
Mhm.
terms of continuing this world that was created in the Batman film. And what came out of it to me, watching more and more of it, was a really good building of another world altogether that was connected
Mhm.
to that. Like when the spoilers, I suppose, this minor spoiler, when the bat signal comes on screen the last second of the show, you go like, oh yeah, and you're so disconnected from all of that stuff, and it was a nice reminder that there's a greater world that these characters are a part of, and yeah, I had a great time watching the show. I thought it was incredibly well acted, really well paced, and the fact that it is about the Penguin was really neat as well. And I agree with what a lot of people are saying, in that it has kind of a Sopranos feel to it, but I thought it was spectacular.
Mhm.
Let's talk about Oz himself, our
Okay.
boy Oz. There's a great reversal of empathy, I guess you'd say, in the show, where we learn traits about what Oz did as a kid to his brothers, and from all accounts, we should want to see that be revealed, because we shouldn't like him and we shouldn't feel any kind of sadness for him having done that. So like we should side with Oz's mother. But when Oz is put in this predicament, you don't want to see him reveal these things. You don't want to see him like break his mother's heart, or see Sophia Falcone get the upper hand, even though she's also a very sympathetic character in her own right as well. And Kristen Milotti is so good in the show, and so I really like what they did with that character. But I mean, Colin Farrell is fantastic,
Oh
and
yeah,
you know
absolutely.
yeah, it's funny. Like everyone was sort of talking about like when the very first trailer of the Batman came out, and it's like this is apparently the Penguin. Like, look, you could barely recognize him, and there's that clip floating around online of him doing a big speech at the end of filming, and he's using his regular voice and accent, and it just doesn't feel right, because
Yeah.
what he and the makeup department and so forth have created with the character, in terms of visually and what he sounds like and how he moves, like he's done a fantastic job, and I was very, very invested in that character and where he would end up. And where he ends up is a really sad place. And I mean, what he does to his biggest ally in the show, it broke my heart, because
Yeah.
I really liked that character and the dynamic they had, and I'm excited to see where he goes from here. Like, and I know apparently he's got a couple of scenes in Batman 2 is the word out there, but there's also talk of maybe doing a second season. And I think that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where he ends up in the show. It's a pretty big reminder. It's like, hey, listen, he might be the main character, but he's not a good guy. And they make that abundantly clear. But I feel like it all fits like with where his character just goes in the show. Like, and yeah, absolutely. Colin Farrell is absolute standout. Like they really transform him like into the Penguin seamlessly. And so it's he's great in it.
Yeah, and I thought they did a really good job in not just filling episodes with sort of minor known or lesser known Batman supporting characters. Like there's an episode where Summer Gleason shows up, the news reporter that's from the animated series, and
Hmm.
spoiler, she doesn't really make it past her second scene, but it's not like it was an Easter egg or it wasn't treated like, oh, here's this character that you recognize or anything like that. Like they just fill the roles they need to. And then when characters like Mackenzie or Bella Real show up very briefly, there's a little bit of that feeling of, oh, I know this character. And yeah, so like the sense of excitement of seeing someone from the film we've already seen was still there, but it did a good job, I think, at remember when and I don't want to just compare this to like an MCU show, but when WandaVision came out and there was all this talk of who's going to show up at the end, will it be Magneto, Reed Richards? Like there was all this talk of who the big surprise would be, and I mean, there wasn't one. It was like another Vision. It was kind of the thing that people had been teasing. Like, I remember Paul Bettany was saying as the show was coming out, like, oh, I got to work with an actor I've wanted to work with for years, and it turned out it was himself. So it was a joke. He was talking about himself. So I like that this didn't have, like, will Batman show up? Like, people were saying online. Like, I mean, luckily I didn't see a lot of that, but there's a tease for Selena Kyle at the end, and yeah, I think it would have felt very, very kind of cheap if it was like, oh, and we paid one of the actors from the movie to show up for a day, like one of the bigger named actors. So I like that I like what they did a lot in the show.
And like they could have so easily done it too. I was worried about that as like, we're probably going to get like a Batman cameo or a Gordon cameo, one of those like big key players from the first movie besides, Penguin. And they don't do it, just the bat signal at the end. And I thought that was like, that's perfect. That's all you need.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. Would you want a second season of the show?
I'd be open to it. I think there's a lot of room for Oz to go down. I actually, thinking about it now, I'm sure we'll get one. Just because like he's such a complex character, and if he is in the Batman too, like whether that rumor or not is true, I don't think it'll go past just like 2 or 3 scenes. So yeah, I'm down for season 2, and I think it would work for this character. But I hope with honestly, like I hope with future seasons or just future spin-off shows set in this universe, it doesn't come at the cost of getting these Batman films, because you saw it was just announced like Batman got delayed again by another year.
I know.
So it's but like I'm okay with creators having the time they need to make sure they make the best product they can, but it does suck 5 years in between 2 films. But
I know. Well, you saw a sequel recently. What would you like to talk about? Gladiator II?
Sure, yeah. So I don't have too much to say about it because it's another Gladiator film, and that to me is pretty good thing, also somewhat negative. But the first half of the movie had me very worried because it was really, really, really eerily similar to the first movie, and I was like, okay, we're just doing this again. But it does get more interesting as the film progresses. You learn a lot more about a lot of the other characters. Some that you portray as bad turn out to be good. Some that you portray as like, oh, nice mentor, turns out to be straight up the villain. So it's just like there are a lot of twists in the second half that I think kind of keep the plot going. But for what it is, it's very effective, and a lot of like great set pieces and great performances like all across the board. And Pedro Pascal is a huge highlight, and I can easily see Denzel Washington getting an Oscar nomination for this. But yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it. Like it's very good, and I definitely recommend it. I haven't really seen too much of Ridley Scott recently. Like I never saw Napoleon from last year. Not much really since, his Alien movies and like The Martian that he did recently. So, but this was very good in comparison to those. So I definitely recommend it. Don't expect this to be the first one, but it is still very good at what it does.
Okay. Well, I guess we should talk about another big film from last month called Wicked. This is obviously one of the big successes of the holiday season. There was this and Gladiator II. That was sort of coming out around similar times. And Moana 2 was also out. And I've seen Moana 2, and it was good. I enjoyed it. Nothing special, but it was fun. But in terms of Wicked, I know the musical pretty well. I've never gotten to see it live, but I've seen a very good recording of it once. And the songs in it are fantastic. And it's a great big production. And I thought, from a production standpoint, the film is really, really good. Then you shoot it weirdly. Not that the cinematography is bad, but there's a lot of overexposure from backlighting, and they dull the colors down. The costumes and sets are just so much more colorful than what we are seeing.
Yeah.
That stuff bothers me. And it bothers a lot of people. And it's the main criticism that a lot of people are saying and they're talking about. And that's bothersome. But the performances are all fantastic. And I don't really know Ariana Grande from anything other than the Victorious show. That's what I know her for, really.
Yeah.
But I thought she was good in this. But it's Cynthia Erivo who that is the real great performance in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to 2018 when I did not know who she was at all. And then Bad Times at the El Royale and Widows came out very close together. And I'm thinking like, okay, right. Who is this person? Like, she's great. And she comes out of nowhere. Like, she had a lot of theater experience, a lot of theater success. And yeah, I mean, she's fantastic in this and a very, very good stage adaptation. And the fact that they took the first half of a stage show and made it a full-length movie, and it doesn't feel like you're cheated out of anything. And they started advertising the songs in the movie a lot closer to the release, and it's been a success. And so I think that's good. And we've got a title for the second film now. They're not just calling it Part 2. And yeah, good film. I would recommend checking it out. It was very well put together. How about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I was very worried going into this because it's part one of a musical and it's basically 3 hours long. I'm like, there's no way this isn't going to be dragged out, and it's not. Like, amazingly, it's not. And so I really don't know. I'm not like too familiar with the musical. I knew like the big, songs that are in this movie, like Defying Gravity and Popular. Stuff like that, but like I didn't really know what the general plot was, because I have this tendency with musicals when they do adaptations, I usually I never watch the actual musical until I have a chance to see it live. I don't like doing recordings and stuff like that. And same with this. So I have no idea like what part two is going to be. Like, I don't know any of the songs that are left, so it's just like, it's like a genuine surprise for me, like, what's left in this story. But it is very good, and, pretty much everything you said, pros and cons. It's like, I noticed the lighting too, and the costumes. They're meant to pop out more, and they just don't. But obviously, yeah, the performances are incredible. The songs are great. The choreography is great. And yeah, absolutely deserving of like all of the praise it's gotten over like the past month. It really is just like really, really solid. And I'm excited for part two, which isn't part two, and it's for good.
Yeah.
But that's another interesting thing that's like that. And Mission Impossible, they kind of just ditched the part two and just, called it whatever they wanted. But it's like, oh, well, it's fine. But no, yeah, this is great. And yeah, I don't have too much else to say about it.
There we go. I will talk briefly here, but I finally got a chance to see We Live in Time. I got to see a special screening of it, and it is fantastic. Did you see this?
I did see this, yeah.
Okay, cool. Just really, really great dedicated performances by two really good actors. And certain aspects of it, like how it jumps around timeline-wise, like I can't say I had a problem with it. Like I understood everything that was going on, but I could see how someone might not understand that or get confused by it. But so that's maybe the minor negative, I guess I would say, about the film. But it really, really worked for me. And seeing a relationship in 3 or 4 very distinct stages, like forming a relationship and the relationship growing and then trying for a child and then dealing with essentially oncoming death. Like, I mean, the trailer tells you that. I don't think I'm spoiling anything there, but
Yeah.
it's an incredibly well put together emotional roller coaster of a film. I think the positive of how it jumps around timeline wise is that you do go from being sad for the state of certain characters to then being really excited for trying to see them have a baby and things like that. That I do think really worked for a film, and that kind of works how we think about people. Like, you know, you think about a relationship with someone close to you, you might go to a very distinct memory first off, but your brain jumps around to all these different times in your lives. And I thought that was a really, really good strength of the film. And Florence Pugh and Andrew Garfield are both so good. And that Andrew Garfield in particular, I know that he's a well-loved, famous actor, but he's very, very good. And I don't know if he properly gets enough credit for just how good he is. So, yeah. He was fantastic.
That's another interesting thing I saw. I heard someone, I don't know how true this is, but I heard somewhere it's like, this is the first movie Andrew Garfield's done where he's actually gotten to use his British accent, which is quite interesting. The movies that I have seen him in, I guess, he doesn't have one, but no, Andrew Garfield's great, and Florence Pugh, too, is amazing in this. I've been a really big advocate, especially for Florence Pugh lately, like, just to have better movies, because, like, she is a really great actress that's just put in a lot of meh-ish movies lately, but this was really great. My only negative with it, really, and it's not even the movie, I just wish I never saw the trailer for this, because I wanted to be a little bit more surprised by like what this movie actually is. And I feel like the trailer just gives you a little too much of the movie. But so like if I hadn't seen the trailer, I think that style of like jumping back and forth, I mean, it's effective either way, but it would definitely be a little bit more impactful if you had no idea like what you were getting into. I think it's a style that works, like the contrast of like, creating a new life, literally and metaphorically, and being on the verge of death. It's very effective, very emotional. Yeah, it's definitely. I could see it getting a lot of Oscar buzz for sure.
Yes, and speaking of Oscar buzz, we're approaching award season time, and I saw a film that might be a bit of an award season darling. I watched Juror #2, the Clint Eastwood film, starring many, many, many people. Essentially, the lead character is Nicholas Hoult, and he's assigned to jury duty. And this DA-type character, played by Toni Collette, is presenting this woman was killed near this bar, and we believe that she was attacked and essentially thrown off of this bridge and into a bunch of rocks. And Nicholas Hoult starts freaking out because he realizes he was driving home from the bar that night, that same night, and he thought he had hit a deer. And he looked around, and he couldn't see anything, and it was dark, it was raining, and he got in his car and left and just assumed that he hit a deer. Like, there's like a watch out for deer sign, the street sign. And so he doesn't know with 100% certainty that he did this. And you kind of just go through the whole film believing that he has, because we're watching this from his perspective. And he believes that he did it. But, minor spoiler for the movie, we never really find that out. But the film leads us to believe that. And the film also deals with, we're watching this court case go ahead, whether or not you believe her boyfriend, the woman who died, who's played by Clint Eastwood's daughter, whether she was killed by her boyfriend, which is what Toni Collette is trying to prove. And you end up believing that because you're given the most facts to support that theory. And like, one of the jurors is J.K. Simmons, and he's like, did they look at anybody else that could have possibly done it? And yeah, it's a really interesting take on how court cases like that work. And if you're just led to believe this is the only possibility, and that they're trying to tell you what's wrong, then you're more likely to understand why the DA is presenting that as the only possible cause. So, well acted, and that Nicholas Hoult, we should talk about him in a moment. And yeah, I mean, just so many well-known actors are in this. Kiefer Sutherland has a small role, and Zoe Dutch is in it, and Chris Messina, like a lot of really good actors, and yeah, just a very, very strong drama film. And I guess this was kind of a bit of discussion. I don't want to say controversy, but I guess some drama, I suppose, where this got a very, very limited theatrical release. And I did not see this in theaters, as a matter of fact. I saw this online. So I don't know if we want to say anything about that, but it's just like, we've been seeing this a lot lately. There was the John Watts movie from a few months ago, Wolves, that was scheduled to get a theatrical release, but then very close to release, it was switched to a streaming movie without like John Watts really knowing that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is kind of a somewhat common occurrence now, and I'm not here for it.
I'm not either. I don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll still support these movies as best I can, but I mean, come on, I want to see this in theaters.
Right, yeah.
All right, well, let's look to the future, if you will. We just got a trailer. I'm sure you've seen it already. It's gotten millions and millions of views already. We got the first trailer for Superman 2025. Well, I guess we could even go back to the couple days before that when we got that teaser for the teaser, which I think is goofy. I don't like this practice either. Like, why do we have to do this?
Like, just, I think a poster is enough, to kind of like get you hyped for a trailer, but yeah, you don't need a teaser for a teaser.
Yeah, but in terms of how the film looks, and now that we've got the full trailer, I think it looks really good. Like,
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, it looks really interesting and big, and I say interesting, that's kind of a relative term. It opens with Superman crashing to the ground, bloody and broken, and he needs Krypto to take him home. And just a really interesting way to start the trailer for Superman. Like, I think it looks good. Like, I don't have a lot to say about it yet. I think the extreme close-ups that James Gunn has come to really love since making the Suicide Squad, like, it makes it feel a little abnormal in a way. Like, it's like they're not the type of close-ups you get in a lot of films of this scale, and that's neat. I like that it doesn't just look like another superhero film. Like, it does look different to that. So that's kind of what I'm excited for.
Yeah. And that to me is like the biggest highlight of the trailer, is just like how pretty it looks. And I was, before like going into this, I was excited about this movie, but I was never really like, thinking that there was too much riding on this, because it's like, if it flops, DC's already at a really low state. The bar's kind of low, so it's just like, they'll just start this over again. But like, after seeing this, like, you can tell like James Gunn is going all in on this movie to kickstart a new universe. And I think like the best thing that he's doing, at least what I can tell from the trailer, is that like he's basically doing like for Superman what the Batman did for Batman, and just kind of revitalizing like what makes that character so special, and kind of bring it back to the glory days a little bit of those characters. Maybe a little too much with John Williams' music. We'll see if that's actually going to be a part of the movie, but
yeah, let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about them using the John Williams theme, like almost like a James Bond level, where it's like James Bond has a consistent theme throughout the movies, no matter who's playing the character, and it's essentially what we're doing here with Superman now. How are you okay with this?
If it's just for the trailer, that's fine. Like, it takes me out of it a little bit, just because it's like, that's a different Superman, and it's, I kind of want a new theme. It's like, and that's the thing, is like, I'm not a huge fan of Henry Cavill's Superman, but I love Hans Zimmer's theme for it, and it's like, that's different, and it's it kind of fits, not really kind of fits that Superman, but it would fit a Superman. Like, I could hear Superman to that song, and that's what I'm hoping we get out of this. I hope it's not just the same song that John Williams did. If it's just for the trailer, fine. Like other movies do that all the time. That's okay. But we'll just have to see, I guess. But yeah,
I've honestly been thinking about this since the trailer came out, but I think the James Bond comparison is the best way to put it because
yeah,
like if they suddenly debuted like the new Bond theme when they reboot the franchise, I think immediately people will be like, nope, can't do that. Like it would just be very annoying. Like Superman has had a lot of different main themes, I guess, over time. But the John Williams one is the one that we all know. And
yeah,
I'm happy for them to stick with that. Like people keep coming back to it. Like even for some reason, Danny Elfman did that when he was scoring Justice League. But
yeah. That's true.
I think that is the way to go. Like I really like the score in Man of Steel, but that's kind of unique to that. Like this being this kind of slower, like very, very over the top orchestral take on the score, like the 7/8 theme. I think it's fine by me, but we'll see. But anyway, getting back to the trailer, having it start with Superman being hurt, like, I feel like that was a way to ease people in that maybe see Superman as being very boring. Like, oh, he's too powerful, like he can't get hurt. But no, he can, and he's got a dog, and that could also be
Yeah.
ease some people in that like dogs. I want to talk about Lex Luthor real quick though.
Okay. He's
This is
got
like the most.
my favorite shot in the trailer is one with him. So
Is it okay? Is it the one of him looking at the gun?
yes, it is.
Okay, because he does this weird thing where he like gets out his gun, but then at the very last second he makes this weird face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on there? So, all right. So from the perspective of it being shot in the trailer, I hate it because it doesn't fit the rest of it. But in terms of making you speculate about the film, I think it's interesting. How about you?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm really curious as like what the context is. My brain just can't help but think that like it just seems like one of those things where it's like Superman's off camera, but like you hear him and he's taunting Lex Luthor and he has that like weird kind of reaction. That's what my brain goes to when I see that shot, and it's hilarious to me. But yeah, and there's that one, and I also love the shot of Nicholas Hoult kind of like hate watching Superman kind of fly through the window. It's great.
This is like the most pissed off I've ever seen a bald guy in a movie, and I'm here for it. But yeah, I'm very excited for the film, and the fact that it looks good is relieving. Like if the trailer came out and it looked like Man of Steel or looked like an MCU film, I just would have been like, okay, this is just the genre now. It's like one of these two extremes of, but yeah, it looks like, I was thinking just quickly, like I was thinking about this with the Guardians films, how Guardians 2 is like a good example to me of it being a really colorful film. Like people point out examples of colorful films and then they always, generally speaking with the MCU, they don't end up looking like that. Guardians 2, for whatever reason, broke through that at the time. Like, you compare that to Thor Ragnarok, and I think in certain ways I prefer Thor Ragnarok as a film, but Guardians is definitely a much more colorful film than Ragnarok. But I like that James Gunn manages to break through that a little bit. Like, the fact that he is obviously such a main player in this new DC Studios project, obviously. Like, he can make it how I think he probably wants to. But it is good to see that he's just going all the way with this.
Absolutely.
So, any other thoughts on this trailer?
I don't think I have anything else.
So, hey, a good Superman film, hopefully. That's nice. We haven't had one of those since, like, the 80s. But let's look at other 2025 films, because there's quite a bit. We'll just talk about these. One of these is coming right around the corner, and that is Captain America 4, Brave New World. How have you been feeling about this movie?
I've been kind of up and down on it. I think right now I'm a little bit more up. And initially, like, I can't, like, I still can't fully, like, wrap my brain just around the idea of, okay, we have another Captain America movie. but we're gonna have a lot of Hulk stuff going on in it, and it's just like that feels like it's taking me out a little bit, but the trailers, I think I've been doing a good enough job at like kind of convincing me that there's this. I do get like Winter Soldier-esque vibes from this a little bit, which is good, and I'm really excited to see Sam like as Captain America in his own movie. I think there's a lot to work with there, and like the best parts of like Falcon and Winter Soldier was like him finally getting to that mantle, and it's like you feel like it's earned, and I'm excited to see him in this, and more Harrison Ford. There's never like I'm always excited for that, and his presence at like Comic-Con and just like all these conventions and interviews, like it's been so great to see him just dropped into this universe so randomly. It's really great, and I can't wait to see him as Red Hulk.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, I'm not like all there, but I feel somewhat good about it. So
okay. I think the trailers for it have been pretty good.
yeah.
I'm trying very hard to not fall into the trap of reading headlines about, oh, they've had a bad screening and they need to change more things, which seems to come out like once a month. And I'm kind of ignoring a lot of that because I don't know how true it is, or B, just because they have a bad audience score, they are actually going to change anything. But I'm hopeful for this because I think it does look pretty good. And we know so little about the story of the film, I want to say. Like, the leader barely appears in the trailer, and we don't know if they're still using the Serpent Society, so who knows if they're doing anything with those guys, but I am hopeful about this. Like Red Hulk, you don't know anything about what they're doing there. We've only briefly seen them, so I'm hoping they're not going to release tons of material between now and the release, and it'll be left a little more open until then, but I'm hopeful for that. But I think I agree. I would love to see them do Sam Wilson as Captain America. Let's just really commit to that, because like Marvel is kind of in hot water right now, and you know how reactionary they tend to be. Like, if something is not well received, they're gonna just brush it under the rug and move on from it.
Yeah.
So I would hate for this to be the only chance we get to see Sam Wilson as Captain America. And like Kevin Feige was openly saying 10 years ago we released Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and we want to go back to that kind of type of film. Of course, Red Hulk is in it, so that's a big difference. But yeah, I'm hoping that they know. Okay, we need to readjust the types of films that we're making, and not just pump out anything, because now we're kind of becoming the butt of a joke to a lot of people. And it takes something like Deadpool and Wolverine, like taking characters that existed elsewhere that had nothing to do with us, that people all really like, and becomes a really successful film. So that's got to affect them in some way. And yeah, so like I said, I'm hopeful about this one.
And I feel like there is a bit riding on it, just in terms of the MCU, because it's like Deadpool, Wolverine. That movie didn't really work for us, but it brought people back to for Marvel to see it. So it's like I feel like there's a lot of focus on Marvel right now. So it's like this needs to do well because Doomsday is a lot closer than we really think.
Yeah.
It's a year and a half away, and it's we kind of need to like Marvel definitely needs to get these next few movies. They need to be really big hits, and so yeah.
Yeah, somebody was pointing this out, where Falcon, obviously he was a big supporting character in The Winter Soldier. He had a cameo in Age of Ultron. He had a cameo in Ant-Man. He was a big player in Civil War. He was in Infinity War. He was in Endgame. He got his own show, and now he's got his own movie. So there's a good evolution of the character compared to like Shang-Chi. He gets one movie, and now he's gone.
Yeah.
And then there's Kamala Khan. She gets a show, She then gets a movie a couple years later, gone.
Yeah.
But just quickly, I will say, I like that a bunch of characters from the Falcon and Winter Soldier show are in this. Like, Danny Ramirez is back as the new Falcon, and Carl Lumbly is back as Isaiah Bradley. You got some of those characters. Like, okay, we are continuing something that we already made, and I guess some people were kind of vocal about what they didn't like about Falcon and Winter Soldier. I enjoyed that show, so I'm glad that they are taking those characters that are pre-established and doing something with them as opposed to almost starting completely fresh with just a new Captain America film.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's move away from Marvel for a little bit. We'll talk about some other films. Next up on the list is 28 Years Later. So, Chris, I got to ask you this. It's a long shot. Have you seen 28 Days Later?
Nope. But I probably will now because like I've always wanted to watch it. I've just like never really just gotten around to it. Never really found the time. But it's like, okay, the third movie's coming out. I guess I finally got to start doing this. But yeah.
Well, lucky me. I not only have seen Ray, and it's out of print, so it's hard to find.
Oh man.
And but I unfortunately have not seen 28 Weeks Later, so I guess I need to track that down if I have to watch, because I don't think it's streaming anywhere.
Oh, interesting.
Because it's like that's the big stipulation of why 28 Days Later is such a expensive Blu-ray to find on like eBay. It's because it's a Fox Searchlight film, which is now defunct, and because of rights, it's not streaming anywhere. So you can't even watch it online. I'm sure that will likely change once we get closer to the release of 28 Years Later.
Yeah.
But for now, good luck finding a affordable copy of 28 Years Later.
Yeah.
But that being said, we gotta support Killian. We gotta keep that train moving. We gotta be there for him. So, all right. So just expect us to review 28 Years Later when that comes out on this pod. That is a promise. We gotta keep the Cillian Murphy train going. All right. Next up, another film we're gonna likely see is Wicked 2, or Wicked for Good is the title. I mean, yeah, I'll see Wicked 2. I liked Wicked 1. I mean, the second half of Wicked famously doesn't have all the famous songs from the film, from the show. Like, all of those really famous songs from Wicked come from Act 1. So Act 2 is the act that no one really remembers. So hopefully the film will be good.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure you'll be very excited for this next one, and that is another Jurassic World film.
I keep forgetting like that's actually a thing, and like I'm kind of surprised we're getting as soon as we are.
What's the title? It's like Jurassic World, like Armageddon or some shit like that, or like Rebirth.
Rebirth.
Jurassic World Rebirth.
That's your typical sequel title right there, yeah.
And it's directed by Gareth Edwards.
I don't care. I'm so out of like Jurassic Park, Jurassic World at this point. It's like, especially with the last two of them, and it's like going into this, it felt, the way they were hyping up. Oh, we have a new Jurassic World. It's going to kickstart a new franchise in that universe, and it wasn't. When did the last one come out? 22. It's only been like 3 years. It's not that big of a deal. I don't care.
Yeah, the Jurassic World films have not been kind to me. But then you add in Gareth Edwards, who I think visually as a director, I think he is top notch.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you will about Rogue One, but I thought Rogue One looked great. And I did see his last film, The Creator, and I think I ended up giving it a slightly higher rating than I would normally give a film that I just have absolutely no enjoyment in. but his visuals are really good. Like I can say that the story of the creator was not bad. Like I was just never interested in it.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of other people would. But another Jurassic World, like I kind of thought the last one was meant to be we're closing the book on all the Jurassic Park films, and apparently there's just another one, and it's got Scarlett Johansson and Jonathan Bailey, who's in the Wicked films, and Mahershala Ali. Like they're all good actors, and I kind of wish they were doing something other than this.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's get back to Marvel. Let's talk about another Marvel movie. We have Fantastic Four. I didn't write this down. I forgot there was a subtitle for this. Fantastic Four First Steps, which why have the subtitle? Okay, I know why, but okay. We've never actually talked about this movie yet, and I'm kind of curious. How are you feeling about this Fantastic Four movie?
Honestly, I mean, I'm kind of waiting for a trailer before I like really say anything. But based off of like what I know, the biggest push for me as to why I'm excited for this is because it's Matt Shakman directing it. I'm a huge WandaVision stan, so it's like I'm already really excited for this. And this seems to be kind of adapting that style of like that retro 60s, but also futuristic, almost like Jetsons basically. And I don't know. I'm really interested in this, and what the little we have seen, things look pretty cool. I like the suits. I like the Fantastic Car, and I think the thing is actually gonna be real. Sometimes I think it's an actual suit, because I knew initially it was gonna be all CG, and then I think they finally made a suit. I don't know, but. Yeah, I'm still kind of holding full thoughts until I see a trailer, but I've had nothing but good stuff so far to go off of, besides the subtitle.
So, I mean, it's got a lot of good actors. I have no
Mhm.
feelings towards this at all. I just
Oh,
nothing.
okay.
So why give this a subtitle? Because this is the fifth Fantastic Four movie, so you gotta separate it from the others. Like, three of them have the same exact title. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
all called Fantastic Four except for one of them, even though one is technically called Fant Four Stick. Uh, yeah, I feel nothing towards this movie. Like, hopefully it's good. I just don't care.
That's fair.
Uh, yeah, but you just know, like, might as well enjoy what we can from this new Fantastic Four before they're lumped into this Avengers Doomsday Robert Downey Jr. Doom crap.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be honest, I think I have a little more faith in them doing X-Men than I do Fantastic Four. But hopefully I'm very wrong. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, again, move away from Marvel just for a slight detour. Let's talk about a movie that I think we're both going to be passionate about, and that is Mission Impossible, formerly Dead Reckoning Part 2, now Final Reckoning. What are your
Uh,
thoughts on this?
it looks pretty good. I mean, like I wasn't crazy about part one. Like I thought it was fine, but I wasn't. I've seen this franchise at higher parts than that, and I kind of get the same vibe from this trailer. Like, it looks good, and I'm excited for it, but I'm not like going crazy over it.
Yeah. I thought the trailer was really good. Like, I liked it. It showed you stuff from clearly the events of other Mission Impossible films as well. Like, there's a
Yeah,
bit where they show you him dropping down from the sky in the first Mission Impossible, like the famous Mission Impossible bit. But there's also parts where it's clearly Mission Impossible 3 Tom Cruise, but it's like a
yeah.
modern shot. Like, yeah, I'm
Specifically,
interested.
it's the shot with the rabbit's foot. I'm like, are we finally gonna know what it actually is?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm interested in what this film actually is. Like, if they're going throughout the franchise in a way, like it's just another Mission Impossible. They're all good in their own way. Like, even the second one, which is the bad
Yeah.
one, has its positives too. So I like these films. I'm definitely excited for this one.
Mhm.
All right, let's get back to Marvel one last time and talk about Thunderbolts asterisk. Uh, this may be a controversial hot take, but this is actually the Marvel movie that I'm most excited for next year.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't know if I would say it's the most excited. Again, I'm kind of holding space until I see like Fantastic Four, stuff about that. But I am more excited for this than I am Captain America, and I was not expecting that at all. I had zero anticipation for a Thunderbolts movie, but then that trailer came out, and I was like, okay, I'm actually in. I'm kind of sold on this because I like that, everyone's a loser in this movie, and that's kind of what makes it work. So
Yeah, because like on paper, this sounds like it's the most boring MCU movie for some people for next year. But honestly, like this is what I'm most excited for. Like it's definitely the one I've been the most intrigued by because
yeah,
it has the opportunity to do something kind of like a Suicide Squad situation where you got a bunch of ragtag people, uh, but like, even though a lot of them have been on hard times, they're not all bad people, and you got characters that are undergoing a rehabilitation of character. Then you've got someone like Bucky, who's a mainstay in the MCU, and Florence Pugh is a big star, and so she plays a big role. And yeah, I like the characters, and I'm hopeful for this one too. I think it looks pretty good so far, trailer wise.
yeah, I was kind of impressed, like, how it looks just visually, how like gloomy and gray, and it's actually intentional this time. It doesn't feel like that's kind of getting in the way of the movie. Like that feels like it kind of enhances what you have because, again, like I said, everyone kind of sucks. All these characters, they're at their lowest point, and something about those visuals, especially the horizon and a lot of the shots, it just looks really impressive.
Mhm. So this is a question that I've been seeing floating around. Is this going to be the end of Bucky?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking that it's like, wow, he's been in this while,
He's been in like what 20 projects or something like
I
that.
know, right? Yeah. Um, I don't know. But I'm kind of leaning towards yes, just because Sebastian Stan, I feel like he's kind of peering out of Marvel. I kind of get that vibe. He's starting to do his own things now, and um, I could very well see this being Bucky's last movie, or at least like leading up to that. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I guess it depends if you want to get rid of some of these characters you've had since the early days. Like we've got
Right.
a bunch of Incredible Hulk characters returning for the Captain America movie. Like even though one of them is recast, so it feels funny that we're embracing some like Incredible Hulk stuff, but we're also nearing the end of characters like Bucky who have been around since the Phase 1 stuff too. So like I don't necessarily need Bucky to die, but I honestly don't know what else you do with this character beyond
Yeah.
this.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm very curious about Thunderbolts. I hope it's good.
I do too.
Yep. Next is I'm dreading saying this next one, but it's Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein on Netflix. Um, so I mean, obviously Del Toro has a good relationship to a degree with Netflix. His Pinocchio film was released through that, but yeah, I don't know what to think of this. There was a lot of recasting.
Mm.
Jacob Elordi is beloved, but I mean, Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, like you got a lot of, again, some good actors in this, but I don't know how to feel about this at all. So I've got to kind of wait and see footage from it, I think. But come on, Del Toro, like in Frankenstein, they go hand in hand. Why not put that on the big screen?
I mean, I'm sure that that's entirely possible. Netflix does do a lot of theatrical releases, but um, I don't know. I do agree though. Like that does seem like the type of thing you would put in theaters, and I would expect that to be pretty big because we're seeing that with Nosferatu right now. It's like getting a lot of attention, for that type of
Hmm.
movie. So it's um I think that one, yeah, absolutely deserves to be in the theaters.
For sure. But then there's another movie that's again coming right around the corner. It's coming out in January, and that is Wolfman. And I'm looking forward to it. Um, Lee Winnell is a good director.
Hmm.
Christopher Abbott, Julia Garner, like these good actors that are at a certain level, and I'm very hopeful for this being really good. It's on my list of films I'm excited for next year.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'll probably check it out. I saw the trailer for it, and I was like, yeah, looks interesting.
Yep. All right. But then there's one more film that is my most anticipated for next year, and
Mhm.
that is Mickey 17.
Oh yes, I'm excited for this one too.
Yes. Uh, it reminds me a little bit of Moon, like a little bit in terms of tone and setting. Like I'm very excited for this. And for those
Hmm.
that don't know, Mickey 17, it's the Robert Pattinson movie where he plays clones of himself.
Yeah.
And it's a shame it's been pushed as far as it has, but it looks like a lot of fun. And I love Bong Joon-ho's films. Like this is definitely the film I'm most excited for 2025. And it would
Yeah.
be very sad if it's bad. All right. Well, 2024 was a weird year franchise-wise. Like something like Furiosa, which it felt really beloved at the time. Like as we enter award season, it doesn't look like it's getting the same level of Mad Max Fury Road treatment, and that's a shame. Like I
Mhm.
think there's still hope for something like Dune to still get that kind of love, but it looks like we've already moved on from Furiosa, which kind of makes me sad. But yeah, next year it feels like things are a little more level in terms of the big franchises. 3 MCU films. It's been a while since we've had that, and I'm not saying that's a good thing in and of itself, but it kind of reminds me a little more of 2018 and so on. But so yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm a little more excited about this coming year in terms of the scale of the big films. How about you?
Yeah, I am too. Pretty much. Yeah, I echo the same sentiments pretty much exactly. So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the films that we just spoke about were mostly franchise stuff. I mean, there's other films like Sinners, that Ryan Coogler film that I think looks good.
Hmm.
There's a couple of films like that I'm hoping for. I know we're getting another Knives Out movie, so that's always exciting.
Yeah.
And okay, a good example is something like Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff. I have no idea if that's going to be good or not. I mean,
Yeah. I'm in
it
the
sounds
same
like
boat.
they've had a lot of problems with that film, but I like the John Wick world, so I'll give that a look-see. But I,
Yeah.
I don't know if that is going to be like a world-changing movie like the John Wick films ended up being. So there
Yeah.
you go. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's all we have for this one. I think maybe next time we could come back and do like a final goodbye to 2024. So yeah, until then, Chris, where can people find you online?
You can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd.
Excellent. I am there as well, but I'm also on Blue Sky. I post some stuff there occasionally. And I am also the video editor for the Amazing Spider Talk podcast. So if you like Spider-Man comics, if you like Ultimate Spider-Man, tune into the show where they are very lukewarm on the book. So, all right. Thanks everyone for listening. Take care, everyone. Bye.